Good morning and welcome to our lesson today, where I want us to continue with business correspondences. Remember, last time we managed to talk about the summary writing, where I took you through the process of writing a summary. Yeah, and then remember, I gave you guys some assignment which you have not yet submitted. So please make an effort of submitting the work that or the assignment that had requested you for. Okay, now we want to talk about business correspondences. Now we talk about business correspondences, we are trying to refer to those documents that are used in business organization. Yeah, what are some of these documents? Yeah, some of these documents is something we call a letter. Okay, so business letter, yeah, are very important in every organization, and you'd find yourself getting to write a letter one way or the other. Yeah, so a letter is a written form of communication. Yeah, it is a formal means it is written. Yeah, and it is a way of communicating between our organization and another organization. So business letters are very important in an organization, and some of the functions of a business letter is to provide a convenient and inexpensive a means of communication without personal contact. Yeah, so you're trying to establish a relationship which is very convenient and which is less expensive, yeah, without a personal contact. When you talk about personal contact, is now either face to face or through telephone. Okay, we also say it is important for purposes of seeking or giving information. So we write letters because we want to find out some information, and we also write letters because we want to give information. We also say letters are also used to furnish evidence of transactions entered into. Yeah, so in case you want to refer to something that was or had happened some time ago, you can use a letter as a reference point. We also say letters can also be used for future records. Yeah, where this information can be retrieved in the near future in case it is needed. Okay, so letters are very important, and therefore even the way we write these letters also needs to be very professional. You cannot just write a letter, you have to follow certain protocol for you to write these letters. Okay, so we've got different types of letters, where we say we've got personal letters. Yeah, personal letters are letters that are written, or what we call the demi-official letters, which are internal letter. Demi means within the organization. Okay, and then also we have official letters, which are written to government agencies. So we've got different types of letters. We've got a letter of inquiry. Now, a letter of inquiry is written by a prospective buyer to a prospective seller, trying to find out information about products and services that are available in the organization. Okay, so this letter is basically meant for information about prices, about goods and products that are offered by the other prospective organization. So a letter of inquiry is just trying to get information about the other organization in terms of their prices, in terms of their products, etc. We also say we've got a letter answering request. Now, when this letter of inquiry is written, they will receive another letter which we call the quotation letter. When you write an inquiry letter, the response you get is the is the quotation letter. Now the quotation letter revolves around now the prospective seller giving information about the products that they have, about the prices, about the quality, about the availability, about the terms of payment, etc. Okay, so once this letter has been written, the prospective seller would look at it and maybe decide that they want to do business with that organization. So then what do? They will give another letter which we call an order letter. Okay, now an order letter is a letter that is written to confirm or to request now the buyer to supply certain goods. Okay, then after that has been done, the buyer now is going to write a letter. Now this is not actually a letter, it is what we call an invoice. Now an invoice is a document that shows how much needs to be paid. Okay, yeah, so then the buyer could decide to make the payment immediately or could decide to pay as per the agreed terms. So for example, in case we have issues maybe to do with maybe payment, late payment, etc., the buyer can come back and maybe try to find out from the seller, what could have been the problem. So in case there are issues to do with payment, yeah, maybe the buyer is not paying on time or as per the agreed terms of payment, they can do something called a collection letter. Now a collection letter is just a letter that says this amount of money is due to us, please make arrangements to pay. Okay, so from there the other company or the buyer will decide, whether they're gonna pay that time or maybe they will ask for more time in case they don't have available funds. Okay, so these letters are very, very important, and these are letters we've gone through before. Okay, we managed to go through these letters when we are handling business correspondences, and this is just an emphasis that we'll need to put in a lot of efforts, especially when it comes to letters, because you will never miss out a letter. Okay, so letters are very, very important. Sometimes you can be told to write a letter of an apology letter. Maybe the client or the customer did not receive the goods on time, or the goods that were received were damaged. Yeah, so you need to know how to write these business letters, because these are not letters that you just write anyhowly. They have to follow a certain systematic order. Okay, and also the flow of words is very, very important. So basically letters are very important, and this is good for you to be able to know how to manage and write them. Okay, now we've got the employment letters. Now employment letters are letters that candidates or people who are looking for jobs get an opportunity to write. So employment letter are personal letter that are written by a prospective candidate. Yeah, and they are written to a prospective employer. Yeah, so when you're writing an employment letter, what are some of the information that you should always make sure is included? One, your letter needs to have an address. Okay, your personal address. It also needs to have a date. It also needs to have the name of the addressee. Who are you addressing this letter to? For example, if there was a job advertisement, you would address that letter to the company that has advertised for that position. Then a letter should always have the salutation. Now salutation is where you say dear sirs, and remember we said in business letters, in case you're not sure of who the recipient of your letter is, whether male or female, it is important for you to address this letter as SARS. SARS or SIIR. SARS. So dear SARS, because this SARS refers to either a female or a male. Okay, then make sure that your letter also has got the subject. Subject is the heading. Yeah, what are you going to talk about? So if you're applying for a job, the subject should be an application for the position of a secretary. That now becomes the subject. Then you need to have the body. Now the body is the content of the information that you plan to share. So what do you plan to say? You need to talk about yourself, yeah, you need to talk about your career, you need to talk about your work experience, you need to talk about your availability, etc. And remember, a letter should always have the complementary clause. Complementary clause refers to yours faithfully. Remember, when you are applying for a job, you cannot use the caption yours sincerely, because yours sincerely is only used when you know the person whom you're addressing that letter to. So if, for example, if you address a letter to dear Mr. Kamau, it means therefore your complimentary clause should be yours sincerely. But in a scenario where you don't know the other party by their name, the complimentary clause should be yours faithfully. Okay, and of course you'll have your name down there, and ensure that you sign. All letters must be signed. Okay, that is very important, because sometimes people write letters and they just leave them like that. Yeah, when you sign it, it means you own it. Okay, then we've got other form of letters that you can get to write in an organization. So when somebody applies for a job, yeah, and perhaps they were successful, what will happen is they might get an opportunity to work in that organization. When they get an opportunity to work in that organization, they will be given a letter of employment. A letter of employment is written now by the employer to the candidate, giving information about their salary, about the date of reporting, about the working hours, about the duties and the responsibilities that this person will be entitled to. They will also talk about the person whom this candidate will report to, yeah, issues, maybe in case there are any unique issues that would need to be addressed, is also written in an employment letter. For example, if this employee comes and works in this organization maybe for 3 years, and maybe they get a job elsewhere, so what would they do? They cannot just wake up one morning and say, I'm not coming to work. So what they'll do, they will write something called a resignation letter. Now, resignation letter is written by the employee, yeah, to the employer, giving details that they plan to terminate their services or their contract with the employer or with the organization. Okay, and maybe sometimes also, if this employee is not working or is not doing their work effectively, there could be reasons for dismissal. Yeah, maybe they had issues, they had behaved in a manner to suggest that they were not being loyal to the company, they were involved in some form of fraud, Yeah, so what happens sometimes after some several warnings, yeah, an employee could also be dismissed. So there's also a letter that we call a dismissal letter. Basically, those are business letters that are written in an organization. Okay, but for every letter that we write out, or for every letter that is written in an organization, it needs to follow a certain format. Yeah, so all letters should follow a certain format, and one of it is that all letters need to have a ref. Yeah, ref is that is just an indication, so that in case this person might need to refer to that letter, they can refer through the ref. So maybe the ref could be keeps dot hr dot 01 dot 20. So a ref is indicated by the respective department that is writing that letter. We also say the letter should also have a date, and when you're writing a date, ensure that you write the date in full. So for example, today's date is 13 October. Don't write oct. You need to write October in full 2020. Then all letters should have the addresses, yeah. It should also have the salutation. Salutation is where we talk about dear sir, dear Mr. Kamau, yeah. Then you also need to have the subject. Subject is the heading. What is this letter talking about? We'll also need to have a body. Body now here is the content, and of course we'll need to have the yours, or the complementary clause. Okay, yeah, the complementary clause. So a letter should have those basic features, yeah. And once that is done, it is this will now fall into the category of a business letter. Now in this era of technology, we rarely handwrite, but sometimes you could have an application, a position advertised, and sometimes the employer insists on a handwritten letter. So a handwritten letter is the one that you don't type, instead you use a pen to write. So the same format, the same layout should be followed. Otherwise, if it is not indicated, it is good to type a letter, because when you type a letter, it is very neat. But in circumstances under which you have been requested to put it in handwriting, yeah, in a personal handwriting, it means therefore you will need to write it. So business letters are very important, and as I've explained, they come with different features, which I've also managed to talk about, and I've also been able to explain the different types of business letter, where we mentioned about the letter of inquiry, a quotation letter, an invoice, a collection letter, a demand letter, an employment letter, a dismissal, resignation letter, etc. So I hope up to that point I am very clear, and I hope that we shall continue moving forward as a team. Otherwise, I want to take this opportunity to wish you a very good day. Thank you.